What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Put your boy MattyB on the call on this lovely Tuesday night, December the 3rd, 2024, and welcome back to another jam-packed episode, another thoughtful episode, another mind-boggling episode of the Final Word on this Tuesday night. And yep, we got a lot to go over tonight. We're going to get you started with your day in Philadelphia sports history. We are also going to jump more into the hype surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles. And are they truly a Super Bowl contender, folks? Because that is what we've gotten ourselves into, is the fact that the Eagles might be now a Super Bowl contender, but are they really? We're also going to discuss some of the fallacies around the head coach. We're also going to discuss some of the fallacies around the team as they make their final push here in the 2024 season. 5 games left? We also are going to get into our Of the Night segment, where we'll talk about a prospect, a player, a drafted player target, or a spotlight player. We're also going to do some hot stove tonight. Hot stove, that's right. It's warming up a little bit. Couple moves to talk about that have come final now on the hot stove as all of baseball prepares for the owners' meetings next week in Dallas, December 8th through the 11th, is going to be when they have the owners' meetings, and there are some moves that we can discuss right now. They have become final. And I think we talked about one of them yesterday, but another one has come final today. So we'll get into some hot stove, and we'll finish tonight with our card review segment, and also a special announcement about tomorrow's Final Word, because we're going to actually move the show tomorrow to a different time in order to accommodate a special guest. So all that and more on this program tonight. So just buckle up, fasten up, and let's go with your day in Philadelphia sports history. We go back to the year 1950 for this nugget of Philadelphia sports history. On this day, the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Cleveland Browns 13-7. 13-7 in a game that featured the first and only time ever in an NFL game that a team attempted 0 passes. The Cleveland Browns never attempted a pass in the game. Now, the 1950s were not the forward pass era. I get that. But they were still throwing the ball in the 50s. But on this day, the Browns did not attempt one pass. They only actually accumulated 69 yards of total offense on the day, all on the ground. The big play of the game was a defensive play, a 39-yard touchdown interception, pick six, that pretty much put the Browns over on top of the Eagles, and they would finish them off 13-7 in the only game in NFL history that never had a touchdown or a pass attempted in. So a boring stat. Imagine watching that game. Imagine that game in 2024. There'd be pickets, there'd be pitchforks and torches at the NovaCare complex that night, if that was the case in 2024. But on this day in 1950, it was accepted by the Eagle faithful as they lost to the Browns 13-7 in a game where the Cleveland Browns attempted 0 passes and accumulated 69 total yards of offense en route to the victory. And there's your day in Philadelphia sports history. Brought to you by the good folks here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, who desperately need your assistance. I'm going to stop saying desperately. We really do need your help, though. Please like and subscribe on this platform so we can continue to grow this product every day. And I guess we can get right into the big news of the day. We do have a scheduling note tomorrow, a change in our normal 9 o'clock showtime. The show will be seen tomorrow at 4:30 instead of 9 o'clock. Yep, it's going to be the midday word tomorrow, not the final word, but we're going to move it to 4:30 because we have a special guest joining the program for the first time ever. Matter of fact, he is our first guest on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, and I will present him a special token of my appreciation for that. He'll get a watch. No, he won't, but we're looking forward to it. Anthony Gargano, the Cuz from PHLY, will be joining me tomorrow at 4:30 here on the program for a quick 20-minute segment. Well, I'm going to rapid fire grill the hell out of him and get his take on the status of the 4 majors here in town. I want to know his feelings on Joel Embiid and the future of the 76ers. I want to know his feelings on what the Flyers' next step should be. Should it be patience, or should we start wheeling and dealing to try to kind of kickstart this rebuild? I want him to know, can the Phillies win a World Series? Regardless of whether or not they go out and are big-time players in free agency and big-time players on the trade market, can they win a World Series under the tutelage of Rob Thompson, who philosophically has some problems in his approach to baseball? And I'll give you one example, of course, is the bullpen by committee. It doesn't work. So I want to see where he stands on that. And then, of course, the big question, the big topic of the day, can the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl despite their quarterback and head coach? So Anthony Gargano will join me tomorrow at 4:30 here on the program. Again, mark your calendars, a special 4:30 airtime for the final word. We're going to call it the midday word tomorrow. So can't wait to talk to Anthony. He's a decent guy. I've watched his new stuff. I used to listen to him when I was younger, of course. I think everybody did back on WIP. So interested to have an opportunity to chat with him. As we get into the show tonight, and I guess I'll remind everybody at home, it's now 72 days until the pitchers and catchers report to Clearwater to start the 2025 season. And I guess that's an actual great segue. Let's get into our hot stove segment here on the program, and let's kind of update everybody at home where the latest and greatest moves in Major League Baseball are. Man, we're investing a lot of money on the high-speed graphics, folks. You can't say that we don't care, that we're not trying, man. Our crack staff of technicians and producers and graphic designers are working overtime, man, to produce the best in special effects for you. Can't beat it. But anyway, let's get into the hot stove report. We talked about the hot stove last week. I believe we left off with the signing of Yushi Kikuchi, the starting pitcher, formerly of the Houston Astros, now a member of the Angels, signed a 3-year deal last week. Of course, the big news, I guess the first major domino to fall in baseball free agency is Blake Snell, a huge 5-year contract with the Dodgers. The 2-time Cy Young Award-winning Blake Snell will now join the Dodgers with Yamamoto. Ohtani, more than likely going to return to that rotation next year. And now Snell. Does the Dodgers? Listen. You can say what you want about the Dodgers trying to manufacture championships and try to win. I mean, I don't know why you would be so against that. That's exactly what the Phillies are trying to do. But you really got to tip your cap to the Dodgers. They just won the World Series not more than 2 months ago, and now they're going out to make another move to bolster their chances of returning as World Series champions. And that, to me, in this modern era, is how you do it. And everybody should be on notice. The Phillies should definitely be on notice, and Dave Dombrowski should be on notice that the Dodgers are obviously not content on what they did in 2024, and they feel that they can get better, and they went out and they signed Blake Snell to bolster that. And that should really tip things off for the Phillies. I mean, we talked about this at the end of the season. We talked about how there's no way in conceivable heaven and earth that the Phillies could run this thing back another year. There were some trepidations and concerns heading into the season about the Phillies' lack of free agent moves last winter. We talked about them on the Fights Final. We talked about them throughout the season. We talked about the concerns on bolstering the bench, bolstering the rotation, or bolstering the offense. And the offense, for the most part, and tell me or say what you want about me. I don't really care, but every aspect of this team underperformed holistically through 2024. And it's all clouded and it's all misty because of that great start that the Phillies had of the season. But, from London on, the Phillies were a 500 ball club, and there's no denying that. And they played a lot like a 500 ball club with players on it that are not being paid to be part of a 500 ball club. And there's got to be some concern in the Philly front office that potentially some of these players are not working out here. And again, I will go to a couple of them. Castellanos, Schwarber, Turner to some extent, and maybe JT to some extent as well. So the Phillies are going to have to try, hopefully, to mix things up. And honestly, a trade of Alec Bohm is not going to do it for me. There's got to be more happening other than the trade of Alec Bohm. There's other holes in this offense. They're going to have to try to get creative trying to fill those holes. And with Kyle Schwarber and JT's contracts both coming up at the end of 2025, what's the plan here? Because if we either address it now or we address it in 2025 or 2026 when those players are gone. So to me, it's not going to work for me if it's just Alec Bohm being moved down the road for a pitcher or a draft pick or some bench pieces or some AAA assets. I'm not going to be accepting that as a trade that puts the Phillies back on the radar as a World Series contender. Now, they will enter the season based on what they have currently as one of the top 5, teams to win a World Championship. But we've seen how that didn't work last year. We saw how the additions of Whit Merrifield, David Dahl weren't enough as this team struggled to come up with some mainly key offense. The pitching staff, there are concerns there too. 1 and 2 are locked down, but then after that, it's cloudy, it's murky, it's a lot of question marks. Ranger Suarez, what's his status? Can he come back and pitch like he did? I'm not even asking him to pitch like he did in the front end of 2024. I'll take what he did in 2023 and 2022. I'll be okay with that. But can we expect that? Christopher Sanchez, can he come back and replicate what he did? And who is the 5th starter? So there are plenty of question marks, and there are holes on this team that must be addressed through free agency. And the Dodgers moved today, or last week, of acquiring Blake Snell for whatever reason. If it doesn't work, if it works, whatever, you got to tip your cap to the Los Angeles Dodgers for recognizing that they want to stay on top and doing what they have to do to stay on top. So the Phillies need to take a lesson from that. Now, is that Juan Soto? Is that Alex Bregman? Is that players like that? Are the Phillies all in on those types of players? We'll see. What does the starting rotation do? We need a starter. We need a starting pitcher here, and we need a new bullpen. We've lost some critical pieces to the bullpen. We need to kind of get that thing reshaped. So, owners' meetings start next week. There's been a series of moves made by some teams so far in free agency. The Angels being one of the more active teams thus far in this early period of free agency, as they try to, as I've said this before, I guess kind of guard themselves against another lost season because they lose Mike Trout. They're just stockpiling players. They're all like, mid-tier kind of guys. There's nobody that they've signed that kind of makes you go, but they're quality MLB players. So you got to tip your cap off to the Angels as well. But today the Dodgers, they went ahead and it's final. Blake Snell's now a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers going forward under a 5-year deal. Another move that was made today or came final today, Kyle Higashioka, the catcher formerly of the Padres, signed a 2-year deal with the Texas Rangers. That doesn't really move the needle for me, but again, it's a move for the Rangers to bolster themselves. And I need to see more, man. Come on, let's get this thing rolling. I'm tired of waiting. Traditionally, next week at the owners' meetings is when they start the trades will at least kind of start, and you'll get a signing or two next week in Dallas. So I hope the Phillies are listening, and I hope the Phillies are gauging the room, and I hope the Phillies are seeing what a lot of teams are already trying to do. And that is not sit back on rest on their laurels and trying to make themselves better. And I am not going to be placated by one move. Trading Alec Bohm is not going to get me back on board thinking that the Phillies are going to win a World Series. There are a lot of holes on this team that need to be addressed. And the clock is ticking. 72 days until pitchers and catchers report to spring training. If you're doing the math at home, which I am. So here we go, Phillies. You're on the clock. All right. Great stuff. Talk about baseball. It's also nice to talk about baseball. It really is. I miss it. We do the Fightins Final, or I've done the Fightins Final over the last 3 seasons. We'll be coming back at it for season 4 here on this network. I can't wait to do the season preview show, which we do in March, right before the start of the regular season, and then we get to roll this thing nightly. There's nothing like having sports on every single night for 6 months. Ain't nothing like it. And it really takes a lot of getting used to when that stops, as we are in this period right now. No sports tonight, or I know the Sixers are playing, but you already heard my edict about the Sixers. But It sucks when you don't have a reliable Phillies game to fall back on every night. So we'll get back to that time of the year here soon. But Hot Stove is heating up. Owners meetings next week. See where the Phillies fall on that. All right. Let's now transition to the ice. Last night we talked about the IIHF, which again, let me promo that again because that's another feather in our cap. We will be headed to Ottawa. That's right. The It's a Wrap Sports Network, one of our beat reporters, which is me, will be going to Ottawa on December 26th to cover the IIHF World Junior Championships. It'll feature, and we went over the rosters of the camp invitees of Team USA and Team Canada last night. It'll feature about 12 nations and a lot of Flyers prospects. 6 of them seem to be in play right now to make their respective countries. A bunch from Team Canada, that's the most concentrated. 4 of them are with Team Canada, so we'll see how that all works out. The 4 notable Flyer prospects that have been invited to Hockey Canada's or Team Canada's camp are Jet Lachenko, Oliver Bonk, Denver Barkey, Carson Bjornsson. Is that 4 of them? Yeah, I think that was 4. Right. And did I say Jet Lachenko? He's the 4th. So those are the 4 Flyer prospects that are on their way to Team Canada's selection camp to see if they can make the roster for the IIHF World Championships. And not only are you going to be able to opportunity to look at the Flyer players up tomorrow that are already drafted and under team control, but you'll also be able to look at some of the draft eligibles of this year in this tournament and get an opportunity to kind of gauge them. And heading into this draft, if you guys are keeping track of that, and we will start breaking this draft down in January. After this tournament is over, we will then start releasing our draft player cards and start kind of pumping up the draft, as we will cover the NHL draft this summer. But players like James Haggins, players like Michael Misa, these are 2 of the players that are kind of, if you kind of polled some of the hockey people out there, they're kind of split down the middle on who they think is going to be the number 1 pick. And that differs from years past. The last 2 drafts, it's been pretty consensus that it was going to be Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini. This year, though, it's a little split. It's not a dead James Haggins. It's not a dead Michael Misa. It's kind of split. And hockey's one of those sports, a lot like baseball, that they have long seasons. A lot of stuff happens throughout those seasons. And when you have a player that's not necessarily a generational talent, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be good, but it does alter some draft boards. Connor Bedard was largely considered a generational talent. Has he worked out so far? Not really, but he's only in his 2nd year. Macklin Celebrini was considered a generational talent. Has that worked out so far? Again, he's kind of dealing with learning the NHL, and he's also been dealing with some injuries. The days of Wayne Gretzky kind of jumping into the NHL and scoring 100 goals in his first year, and Sidney Crosby, that's truly generational. And they don't come along but once every 20, 30 years. So we haven't really seen a player along those lines, but there's been some really good players taking at number 1, and largely those number 1 picks have panned out. But this season is going to be an interesting run to the draft. You might see players kind of jockeying up and down the top 10 prospect lists, and of course teams when they draft and they draft specific needs, that also alters some things, especially when you don't have a out front leader when it comes to generational talent. Like, for example, if your team really needs a defenseman and you're not sold on James Haggins of being the dead, clear-cut, generational player, maybe you don't draft him number 1 overall. Maybe you draft a defenseman, and maybe Haggins falls to 5 or 6 or 3. So this is going to be a very interesting draft. And, of course, the Flyers factor heavily in this year's draft. 6 picks in the first 2 rounds the Flyers have in 2025. Right now, they have 6 picks in the first 2 rounds. So the Flyers should be keeping a close eye out on all of these prospects at this tournament. And then there will be NHL scouts galore at these tournaments. And hopefully I'll get an opportunity maybe to run down one of the Flyer scouts. And maybe not get an interview because they like to be anonymous and stay in the shadows. But maybe I get a quote or 2. So we'll see how that all works out as we will get up to Ottawa on December 26th and cover that tournament for you. And, of course, Team USA, if you're keeping track at home, the defending World Junior Champions last season, led by Cutter Gauthier. They are the defending gold medalists, so we'll see if they can hold on to that as well. It's going to be it's a fun tournament. It's a great way to spend your winter break or your Christmas break watching some of the young studs of tomorrow in the NHL play hockey. So we cannot wait for that. But on the NHL front, Flyers, second day off as they get ready to start their season again on Thursday against the Panthers. But there's some news coming out of the NHL front as well when it comes to this year's All-Star game. Now, for those of you who are not aware of this, last year at the All-Star game, Gary Bettman addressed this along with the other situations involving Carter Hart and those other players. But the situation was brought up about NHL hockey returning to international play. The NHL collective bargaining agreement does not support Olympic play right now, or it didn't then. Now it does, because Bettman made a series of announcements last year that affects the NHL and their participation in international hockey going forward. So they will be back in the Olympics in 2026. So NHL players will go and return to their countries next February to participate in the Winter Games. And going forward, that is the plan every 4 years to support the Olympics. Starting this year, as a kind of a way to pique your interest about the Olympics that are coming up in 2026, the NHL will not have an All-Star game this year. They're doing away with the All-Star game, and in its place, they're having what they call the Nations Tournament. It is a 4-nation tournament that's going to, as I said, kind of whet your appetite for Olympic hockey. The Team USA will have a team, Canada will have a team, Finland will have a team, and Sweden will have a team. These are the 4 teams that will participate in this tournament, and it'll be made up of strictly NHL players. So if you're in the AHL, you can't play there. If you're in the OHL, you can't play there. If you're in the ECHL, you can't play there. You have to be an NHL player in order to play in this tournament. And the Flyers are actually sending some representation to the 4 nations right now. Nothing's official. I believe that Team Canada, or not Team Canada, but all the teams, I believe have to announce their rosters as of Thursday, but the inside track is that Travis Konechny will make Team Canada. Travis Sanheim will also be part of Team Canada, and Ristolainen will be moving on to play for Team Finland. So 3 Flyers will feasibly be involved in the 4 Nations tournament. No Flyers getting being brought onto Team USA's roster. Interesting. But yeah, so those are the 3 Flyers that everybody expects to make the 4 Nations tournament roster starting that will be announced here Thursday. Now, they'll do the 4 Nations in 2025 for the All-Star game. Next year, 26, the All-Star break will be the Olympics. 2027, they will return to an All-Star game. But in 2028, they will also do an All-Star game. But in the summer of 2028, this is also big news for all you international hockey fans. In the summer of 2028, the World Cup of Hockey will return. Every 4 years, they will do a World Cup of Hockey. I don't know if you guys are followers of that. If you are not, I highly recommend that you go on YouTube and you search the 1996 World Cup of Hockey tournament. Some of the great, it was the year that Team USA won. They beat Canada in the finals. And it was hosted, one of the host arenas was the brand new Core State Center in Philadelphia. Matter of fact, it just opened that summer. It was the first hockey played in the current Wells Fargo Center. So it's a little walk down nostalgia lane when you watch those games. Featured players on Team Canada that year were Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Eric Lindros. On Team USA, you had John LeClaire, Chris Chelios, Keith Kachuk. Mike Richter was the star of that tournament as he stood on his friggin' head. Boy, was he good in that tournament as he helped Team USA win. The last time Team USA won the gold, I think the last time they had the actual tournament was in 2014 or something like that. John Tortorella was the head coach, or I think he was, and they didn't do too well. But World Cup of Hockey play will return in 2028, and they will do it every 4 years after that. So good news if you're an international hockey fan. If you missed that, if you missed the NHL's participation in the Olympics, if you miss the World Cup of Hockey, it is all coming back starting this year for the Four Nations tournament that 3 Flyers will be part of. Travis Sanheim for Team Canada, Travis Konechny for Team Canada, and Ristolainen for Team Finland. So good news for all you hockey fans. Tis the season. Tis the season for hockey. And can't wait for that. So, but remember, we will be there. That's right. It's a Wrap Sports will be at the IIHF World Junior Championships in Ottawa, covering that event. Looking forward to that. And tomorrow, for all you, just another programming note. Tomorrow there won't be a show at 9:00, but we'll do a 4:30 show with our special guest Anthony Gargano of PHLY, the All City thing there on your internet dial. He will be coming on, and I'll have an opportunity to probably piss him off, but I'll do my best not to. But here's the problem: I don't have any handlers anymore to appease. I don't have that leash anymore. I'm the one. This is my network. I can do what I want. So I fear. I really got to work on that, and I don't want to be completely. I don't want to be completely MattyB on him. I really don't. I do want to sound like somewhat of a professional, but I'll do my best, and I'm sure I'll be fine. But I listen. When I was with EOP, they didn't put any restrictions on me. I got a couple phone calls every now and again to kind of reel me back in, but nothing major. No, I don't think it was anything major. But I can't wait for that tomorrow afternoon. Anthony Gargano will be on the network, and we'll have some fun with it. So before we gravitate off of hockey, let's get into the Of the Night segment. This is our new segment, or it's not really a new segment, but this is the time of the show when we'll talk about a prospect player, a draft target player, or we'll spotlight a player for an incoming season. And let's go. All right, the Of the Night segment brought to you again by the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Let's get it going right now. It is a Flyers prospect. Again, it is the season. And I've said this over a multitude of shows, and I'll repeat it again. We are getting ready in January to really amp this thing up. We're going to start breaking down your MLB draft. We're going to start breaking down your NHL draft. We're going to start showing some more of these prospects. And then in April, of course, it'll be weapons free when we start talking Phillies prospects as well. So my vacation is coming to an end, as I've only been really kind of dealing with Flyers prospects since about August, September timeframe. So let's continue it though. Our prospect of the night is Ole Lycksell. That's right, the journeyman fringe NHL centerman who's currently with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Drafted in the 6th round in 2017. He's 5'11" and 176 pounds. A spark plug, monkey wrench type of player that can kind of fit in when needed. He's one of those emergency call-up guys. He's one of those guys, the Flyers, that have his number on speed dial. And he's got that burning track between Allentown and Philly pretty much mesmerized. He knows the way. Probably could do it in his sleep. He's been up and down so many times. But he is also a player that might fall into that, when do you stop calling Lycksell a prospect? He's been in the league, or he's been involved in the NHL, or drafted. His draft rights have been something since 2017. Is he now not considered a prospect anymore? Is he more now what he is, a fringe call-up player when you need him? He fits a need short-term at the NHL level, but he just, for some odd reason, it might be the 5'11", it might be the 176. I don't know, but for some reason, he can't stick at the NHL level. So at what point do you stop calling Ole Lycksell a prospect and refer to him more as that journeyman fringe NHL or career minor league guy, which I'm not knocking for, man. I wouldn't care personally. You can scrape out a career playing in minor league hockey. You can retire on that. You get the same player benefits as the actual players do from the NHL. And, you can stick around in the game. And down in Lehigh, he plays every game. He's averaging about 25 minutes a game down there. He's playing a lot. So, I mean, I wouldn't personally care. But when did we stop calling Licksell a prospect? So far for the Phantoms this year, 19 games played, 5 goals, 10 assists for 15 points, and a negative -1 on his season, on his line for the Phantoms. Has been up. I don't think the Flyers have called him back up yet this year. He was a regular fill-in type player last season when the Flyers needed him. Haven't seen his number called at all so far this year, as he's not made his appearance so far for the Flyers. But fear not, for all you Licksell fans, I definitely think he'll be on his way. Injuries will probably prompt him to return at some point. We are notoriously thin at center, and obviously, anything that John Tortorella can do to spice up the lineup at center, he'll probably do. So there you have it. Your spotlight player or your prospect of the night in the of the night segment, Flyers center or Phantom center, Olli Licksell. And hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed presenting it for you. And Steve checking in. Wasn't only 5'5" when he first came up. He's grown, Steve. He was just a kid. I don't know, Steve. Are you out there keeping track of this guy? Are you the head of the Olli Licksell fan club? Do you and Al, who's the in charge of the Junior Marte fan club, do you guys get together in the random obscure fan club meetings every month and talk about that stuff, man? I don't know. In his first year of juniors. A in his first year of juniors? What's that mean? Double A? What does that mean? What does that mean in his first year of juniors? Please give some clarification, Steve. I don't know if he was 5. The stats got him at 5'7" here. Is that what it's right? 5'7", Steve? Is that what I have him at? 5'11". Yeah, maybe he's grown. I don't know. Talk to the elite database of the NHL, man. That's where I got this stuff from. Again, I don't keep a journal on Olli Licksell, but I know you do, but I know Al doesn't. So that's what I'm saying. You're in charge of the Olli Licksell fan club, and Al's in charge of the Junior Marte fan club. And you guys come together at the national obscure fan club meetings to discuss your love of these random players. Al's probably the chairman of the Northeast region of the obscure fan club chapter of America. I'm just saying, I don't know if he was 5'5". Steve, 5'5" is like childlike. It's like diminutive. I don't think he was 5'5". I don't think he could physically be 5'5" and even get drafted into the NHL. I mean, come on, Steve. That's like, I was 5'5" when I was like 12, dude. Maybe even younger, like 10. I'm going to live with 5'11", just for sake's argument, because I guarantee he's not 5'5" now. All right, he'd be getting blown up out there if he was 5'5". But thanks for chiming in, Steve. I always appreciate the assist. So let's head over to your NHL scoreboard for this Tuesday night. It is 2-2. Heading down the stretch in the third period between Detroit and Boston. It is 6-4. It's about to be a final out there in Buffalo, 5-4, as the Avalanche are winning and about to win that game. At the end of overtime, heading to the end of overtime, the Canadiens and Islanders are still tied up at 1. About 7 minutes remaining in this one. Out in Pittsburgh, it is 4-4, Panthers and Penguins. Overtime as well in Washington, it is 1-1, Sharks and Capitals. They just started the overtime period. The end of the third period, so that means the game is over. It is the Kraken over the Hurricanes, 4-2. Getting to the end of the second period out in Minnesota, it's 2-1 Canucks over the Wild. And nothing. About 4 minutes remaining in the second period between the Blues and the Jets. It is nothing. Midway through the first period out in Calgary between CBJ and Calgary. And a little bit later on, out there in Sin City, the Knights and the Oilers will throw down. And there's your trip around the National Hockey League on this Tuesday night. Hope you enjoyed that. Al and I can own the Excuse Emporium and the Obscure Club. Yeah, you can run the Obscure Fan Club out the back of the Excuse Emporium. They don't like Wednesday nights. Have like a... you can do like what Walmart does. You have a little snack shack in there that sells the hot dogs and the slushies and the pizza. It's actually, those hot dogs are pretty good. But yeah, you guys can run that out of the back of the Excuse Emporium. That'd be pretty fun. I'd go to a meeting just to see. Wonder if there's an Eagles letdown game, special clearance at the Emporium. There you go. That's the new. Is that aisle 9? Is that the new Christmas aisle? Is that seasonal? Are those? I guess all this stuff is seasonal. Well, no. Some Eagles excuses are year round. Some Phillies excuses are year round. So is this the seasonal excuse at the Excuse Emporium about an Eagles letdown against the Panthers? We'll talk a little bit about that. Steve gives me the segue. I'll get into some Eagles, and I cannot wait for tomorrow. I always like talking to people that could potentially have their hand in the pocket of some like Eagles type stuff. And I know I don't know really what's the situation over there at PHLY. And by the way, for those of you just tuning in, Anthony Gargano, the Cuz, will be on the show tomorrow. We're going to move the show to a special 4:30 start time, as I'll have an opportunity to interview Anthony for the very first time ever. So, and again, no handlers. I don't have any restrictions because I'm the man in charge of this network. So we'll see how far off the rails I can take it. But I've always liked talking to people that could have their hand in potential pockets of teams. I love talking to Howard. I've interviewed Howard about 5 times, and I goat that old guy all the time into trying to speak negatively about the Eagles. And one of these days, I'm going to get him to do it. But I'll see what I can do with Anthony tomorrow. But Steve, you bring up a good point, and let's segue because I can't stay away from it. I have to talk about it. I'm hearing this nonsense now. What was today's du jour? Nick Sirianni as NFL Coach of the Year. I mean, what is he on the list? Like 15th right now? And the odds in Vegas's eyes about being the Coach of the Year. And, the homerdom, I love being from Philadelphia. I love it. I would not ever, the way I grew up, would not want to change that for the world. I had an amazing childhood, grew up in a dysfunctional family, but I had an amazing childhood. I would not trade any of that. I would not trade any of the sports love that I have for the city's teams. I would not trade any of the love I have for the city at all. But boy, are you guys getting delusional out there, man. I heard a guy go on a rant for about an hour and a half today in support of Nick Sirianni as Coach of the Year. Now, this is a guy, of course, who's been stripped of all play calling responsibilities, or at least that was the plan, right? I mean, that was the big plan going into the season. He was stripped of all play calling responsibilities. This is a guy that routinely barks at his own fans. This is a guy that brings his kids into the press box or press room area for after game, post game reports. This is the guy that has gone for it, 20 some odd times through 12 games on 4th down. This is a guy that everybody every week is sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for a Nick Sirianni moment to derail this team. And we're talking about he's going to be one of the top candidates for Coach of the Year. Are we insane around this place, man? Why can't you just accept the fact that the Eagles, who are 10-2 and doing really well, why can't you just live in the moment of that? Why do we got to look outward and try to pump this team up to being more than what they are? They're a 10-2 team that's playing really well. But there are some flaws to this team. And it's okay to admit that there's flaws. It's okay to say, I like the Eagles, I love the Eagles, I love what they do, but I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C. It makes you more rounded as a person. It makes you more grounded as a person. To sit here and say that Nick Sirianni, and no self-respecting Eagle fan is buying that. No self-respecting Eagle fan is sitting there saying, yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, Nick Sirianni deserves heavy consideration for Coach of the Year. What are we doing around this place, man? Accept him for what this guy should have been fired at the end of last season. He lost the locker room. The only reason why he got the locker room back, and the only reason why things are operating somewhat, functional right now, is the fact that he brought in 2 highly regarded and respected coordinators who are doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. And of course, that's just my opinion because I'm not down there and I don't know who's doing what. And be honest with you, there are some good points of Nick Sirianni. I'm not going to take those away from him. There are some good points to him. He's got a simple playbook that Jalen Hurts can follow, because if Nick Sirianni wasn't here, if Nick Sirianni was not part of this team right now, and has watered down the playbook for Jalen Hurts. I don't think the Eagles are 10-2. If Jalen Hurts had to follow Kellen Moore's playbook, I don't think the Eagles are 10-2. So that's a good part of that, the Moriarty playbook, and that's a big. That's Nick Sirianni, and I'll give him all the credit to that. But to sit here and say with a straight face, sober, that Nick Sirianni is a candidate for Coach of the Year, man, we got to pull ourselves into the reality, guys. 10-2, they're on their way to a potential. Well, they're on their way to the playoffs. That's a guarantee. I think a win on Sunday and a Commanders loss or a Redskin loss, doesn't that pretty much cinch it up? Pretty much they're going to win the NFC East. I put this thing out last night, and I put this out as a joke, but I really have there's some truth behind it. So, again, I know it's way too early to look at this, but here's the 2025 Eagles schedule. If the season were to end tonight, if today was the final day of the regular season, this is your schedule for next year. Look at that damn thing. Are you kidding me? They better win the Super Bowl this year, because I don't know if any team could survive this. They got road games in Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay, Minnesota, home games with Detroit. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's if you want Nick Sirianni to win Coach of the Year, let him go 10-2 through this next year. Then we can talk about Nick Sirianni being Coach of the Year, but not right now. But I put this out here because I'm trying to find something to kind of grab onto for this season as well. I want to believe. And now that I see this, and again, this is all factored in. If the season were to end today, this is how the schedule would break down for next season. And this is a gauntlet, man. You thought a gauntlet in 23? Oh my God. And of course, they're going to put all them games back to back. You know what I mean? They may throw the Lions game in between the Chiefs and the Bills to give the Eagles a home game, but they're going to put those games in somewhat of a sequence of each other. And it's going to be fun football, or it's going to be very depressing football. But then that's what I'm saying. That's why I think the Eagles should be all in. And I hope that's extra motivation for you as well, Eagles fans, to really get behind your team to win in 2024, because 25 is looking pretty challenging right off the get. But yeah, Nick Sirianni, man, I'm not. Come on. Nick Sirianni. Let's ground ourselves a little bit, man. Let's ground ourselves. Cuz has to get to bed early. Yes, he does. He's got that show in the morning at 9 o'clock. Yeah, he can't come on at night. That's why I had to move it to the day, Steve. Apparently, he's not that much older than me. I don't know why you can't stay up a little later. If you don't use critical thinking skills to deduce Nick Sirianni is professionally challenged, then I can't help that dude. Yes, you're absolutely right. Again, was there anybody? I know there were some staunch homers out there last season that were okay with bringing back Nick Sirianni. I wasn't one of them, of course. I thought he was part of the reason, not really part of the reason why the team imploded. Well, I should say not part of the reason why they started losing, right? Because I thought the team wasn't as talented. They weren't talented, and I really still believe that. And I put that on Howie. But when the thing started to go off the rails and they couldn't pull it back in, and it was literally the same product week after week, there was no changes made, no adjustments made at all, none, week after week after week, and still losing. That's when I blame Sirianni, because that's all him, right? That's all his doing. So this season, I think he's being lifted up and propped up by those two coordinators who have done an amazing job. Now, Kellen Moore, does he stay next year? I guarantee you, with some opportunities already starting to kind of open up in Chicago, Jacksonville will have an opportunity next year. I guarantee you, keeping him in Philadelphia, especially if the Eagles do win the Super Bowl, it's going to be hard. Now, is Saquon Barkley making him look better? Because, again, I don't think we're seeing Kellen Moore's playbook. I really don't. I think we're seeing the Moriarty playbook, the combination of two. But, I think he's being propped up by those coordinators, and I truly believe that. And if left to his own devices, Nick Sirianni would screw this thing completely up. Nick Sirianni would be fighting against the Eagles to win every week. I'm telling you. So get the damn conversation. Get his name out your mouth for Coach of the Year. Absolutely not. My candidate, or right now who I think the Coach of the Year is what's his name out in Denver? Peyton. What he has done with that group. And Bo Nix as the starting quarterback. I mean, he's done an amazing job, and that's what you want to see. And again, let's also look at this from the Eagle fan standpoint. We started the season. We're a Super Bowl contender. On paper, we're too good. What happened last year in 23 was an anomaly. That should never ever happen to us. Okay, if that's what you're saying, then why are you saying now at 10-2, doing what they're supposed to do, apparently, that he should be held as a coach of the year? He's just doing what he's supposed to do. He's not taking a product and taking pieces from the junk heap and making a playoff contender. No, because we, as our own Eagle fan base, you people, say it every day, or said it every day in the offseason. We're a great team. There's no reason for what happened to have happened to us last year. So why are you looking at Nick Sirianni as he's some sort of great coach this year? He's just doing what he's supposed to do with a great team. It's Sean Payton who's doing what he's doing with not a great team that makes you a coach of the year, right? Isn't that what that means? It's not taking a good product and maintaining the status quo. They were 10-1 last year. They were 10-1. They're 10-2 this year. It's the status quo, and I'll give them that. So why are we talking about coach of the year for somebody who's just doing their job? I don't understand the rationale. Well, I do understand the rationale, and I do understand the thinking. It's delusional homerism. It's delusional because we don't want to accept that our team in certain aspects, in certain areas, is just average and potentially below average in some areas. No, we want to puff ourselves up in week 13 that we're something more than what we are at this particular moment in time. The Eagles have not won a damn thing as we move down the stretch. There's 5 games left. I said it last night. There's no reason right now that there should be any trouble for the Eagles to get to the playoffs. None, right? I mean, are they mathematically in? I haven't seen that, but I imagine once they take apart the Panthers on Sunday, they will be mathematically into the playoffs at 11-2. I would have to believe that. So there's nothing to me that says they're not going to make the playoffs. Not a thing, right? But they haven't won anything yet. They have not gone up toe-to-toe with the teams that are standing in their way. And once again, another thing that I'm hearing about Nick Sirianni and why you're building him up, because he's 40-19, or he's been to the Super Bowl, and he's been to the playoffs for 3 straight years. Not one person is saying he's won a Super Bowl championship. Well, I don't get it. Sean Payton, he's won a Super Bowl championship. Why aren't we talking about him? I mean, we're pulling resumes from the past. It's about this year, correct? It's about what he's doing this year. Nick Sirianni hasn't won anything as a head coach. Anything. And that's not me being me. That's me talking about the truth and the facts. Except what he is. He's an average head coach. And honestly, he might be below average because he doesn't have many head coaching responsibilities. So get his name out your mouth. Stop talking ridiculousness. Leave that alone, and then don't gravitate to the other nonsense with Jalen Hurts being an MVP candidate. Just accept the team for riding a hot hand in Saquon Barkley, riding an extremely hot hand in that defense, and then riding another hot hand in that offensive line, and pray to God that the offensive line, Saquon Barkley, and the defense hold out until you get at least to the NFC Championship game. Then you're going to have to do something different. Then you're going to have to figure out who's going to play quarterback for this team. Because if you think you're going to run your way to Super Bowl 59 championship glory, you got another thing coming. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense going up against the run first, run only Eagle offense, it's not even a challenge. The Chiefs will put up about 45 points on the Eagles, and the Eagles will put up 21 running the way they do. So let's worry about getting to where we got to be right now. And that is to the NFC Championship game. Because that's when it's really going to start. Whoever they see in that NFC Championship game, that's when it's going to start. That's when I'll start believing. If we can beat the Detroit Lions, if we can beat them and get to the Super Bowl, that's a big step in the way, in that direction. But to think for a minute that you're going to be able to beat the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes with a run first, or I shouldn't say run first because that's the wrong statement, but a run only mentality, you got another thing coming, man. If you think you're going to beat the Bills and Josh Allen with a run only mentality, you got another thing coming. If you think you're going to beat those two teams without scoring any first quarter touchdowns and only scoring never scoring or scoring 2 first quarter touchdowns all season, and never scoring a touchdown on your opening drive and falling down traditionally and averaging 10 points in first half a play, you got another thing coming. So let's focus on the problems. Let's focus on getting the team where that needs to be. Stop glossing over that. Stop glossing over and gravitating right to the fourth quarter and Saquon Barkley. Let's talk about what's happening in this team in the first quarter. Let's talk about those 15 scripted plays that are Nick Sirianni's plays, the coach of the year, who only has scored 2 first quarter touchdowns and no opening drive touchdowns all season long on the 15 scripted plays. Let's talk about that for your coach of the year. That needs to be cleaned up. Your quarterback needs to throw the football to the middle of the field more than 39 times through 12 games. That needs to be cleaned up before we're talking Super Bowl. So get off this Nick Sirianni bullshit and talk about the Philadelphia Eagles trying to get better and winning. It burns my ass to hear this shit, man. It really does. Yeah, I went off the rails. Damn it. Oh, man. Steve, how you doing? Well, Steve, bring me down to earth, man, so you can create my own adverse mess and somehow still be coach of the year candidate. Yes, Steve, I agree. He did go 10-2 through a gauntlet, and everyone fell apart. He did go 10-2 through a gauntlet. Actually, they were 10-2 through that gauntlet. It was the 49er game, and then after that, it was what? The Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Giants. I mean, you're right. They fell apart against lesser opponents. Good point, Steve. It'll be tough to keep Bobby King and Christian Parker. Got to keep one of those guys. Yeah, they got to keep the whole staff. But you know what, Steve? Here's the thing. Let's play devil's advocate for a second. Say, and this is another part of this thing that's going to get me pissed off. Say the Eagles get through the season. Let's call it 15-2. I will give them the high end. I will say they win out and they go 15-2. Through 2024. They get and I'll even give them the first round bye. They got the first overall seed. So the road to the Super Bowl is through Philly. They get the first round bye. But say they lose in the divisional round. Or say they lose in the championship game. Or say they lose in the Super Bowl. Do they bring Sirianni back? That's going to be an argument for me to have a little bit later on, and I'm gearing up for it. But do they bring him back? Or is it Super Bowl or bust? Is that the only thing that keeps Sirianni's job is a Super Bowl championship? Or has he already earned an opportunity in 2025? Because that scares me to think that he might have earned that opportunity in 2025 when they haven't won anything yet, and they could potentially not win it all, right? I mean, we talked about this in the preseason. A lot of people were on that ledge that the only thing that's going to save Sirianni is a Super Bowl championship. Regardless of what happens throughout the regular season, he needs to win. He needs to win it all. I mean, Rob Thompson, he's a kind of a poster boy for inadequacies and still maintaining a job. So does Nick Sirianni, has he earned an opportunity to coach the Eagles in 2025 right now? Or does he have to win a Super Bowl? Or if he loses at any point in the playoffs, does that disqualify him from returning as your head coach? And God forbid if they run the gauntlet or they run the table, 15-2 in the regular season, win all the playoff games, and then lose in the Super Bowl. Oh, man. Would that be like a 17-game winning streak? Woo, that would be tough, man. That would be hard. That'd be a hard pill to swallow. Yeah, it would. So I guess that's another question you have to ask is what is Nick Sirianni's future? Has he earned it right now? I say he hasn't. Running the ball saves the team in 2022 and 2024 from, wait for it, a pass-happy head coach. Pass-happy head coach is okay, Steve, right? A pass-happy head coach is okay if you have the quarterback to do it. And that's another problem that this team doesn't want to address. That's another problem that we're sweeping under the proverbial rug about the quarterback. And that's a rant for another night, Steve. I don't want to get going down that road, that rabbit hole. I'll be here till 4 a.m. and my head will explode. So I don't want to give it all away. But yeah. So Nick Sirianni is not a Coach of the Year candidate. Nick Sirianni is certainly he should be going to bed every night with one thing on his mind: I better win the Super Bowl or I'm getting fired. And I don't know if he's doing that, but there you have it, Nick Sirianni, the Coach of the Year. And some of the excuses I heard, some of the reasons I heard were funny. Yeah, because he got to the Super Bowl. Now, who cares? We're talking about this year, right? He's 44-19 as a head coach, 0-1 in the Super Bowl. Right? I could care less. He could be 500 every year. Right? And they could squeak in as a 7 seed every single season. But if they won the Super Bowl every year, who cares what they are in the regular season? It's so funny. We look at the regular season numbers and we're like, look at that, 44-19. Oh, he's 0-1 the Super Bowl. But, we're so fixated on the wrong stuff. It's about the hardware, the gold, the big trophy, which we only got one of. Come on, man. Let's stop it. Stop it. Did Doug win the Coach of the Year in 2017? The Super Bowl year? Did he? I don't think he did, right? Didn't Belichick win it? Who won Coach of the Year that year? Somebody help me out. Super Bowl year, Eagles. Who won Coach of the Year? Was it Doug? Should have been, right? Took a team from nowhere to a Super Bowl champion. I mean, should have been Doug. I don't think it was. But, all right. So if anybody finds that out for me, let me know. If not, I'll come back with it tomorrow night. All right. So let's kind of get to the back end of the show. We went through a lot tonight. We talked in nauseam about some things. Of course, we gravitated towards the Eagles. We talked about the Flyers. We talked some Phillies. Did I mention the Sixers? No. No, I don't. And I don't want to. But we do have one more segment left, so let's key to music.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
Yeah, that's right. You've landed smack dab in MattyB's card review, the segment of the show where we take one of my many illustrious sports cards from my collection. 50,000 cards, maybe? I don't know. Didn't count them. And we basically break it down. We do this every night. We break down the card. We talk about financial value. We talk about nostalgia value. We talk about intrinsic value of the card. And we just kick around some facts about when I might have actually gotten this card. Did I pull this card out of a pack? Did I find this in some 95-year-old's attic? By the way, for those of you who follow the sports card craze, this is not the time of the year to go. Big place to find cards are at flea markets, garage sales, and estate sales, right? Huge place to find cards because they're kept in people's attics and garages for 50, 60 years. Unfortunately, somebody dies or they sell it or whatever, and they get thrown on a table and they go for cheap pennies. And you could find, there was a mantle pulled out of a garage sale. Actually, it was behind a frame of a picture, a 52 mantle. It was hidden back there. So you can find, that's where all the really cool cards are found anyway. So I highly recommend if you want to get into the hobby, because it's expensive these days. Boy, is it expensive to get into this hobby. But if you want to get into it, starting in the spring, like May, start looking up for local estate sales or flea markets, garage sales in your area, and go to those. And try to, all you need is one mother load or one honey pot, one box, and that will start you on the road. And that's my suggestion for you if you want to get into that hobby. Wait till the spring when they start having flea markets, garage sales, and estate sales, and go that route because you'll be surprised at what you find. But anyway, so let's talk about my collection. Again, I have some good cards. I have some really unique cards, really fun cards, and I cater to all four sports. I'm not just baseball or basketball or football. I'm all four. And tonight we're going on to the ice. That's right. We got a hockey card for you tonight. It is your 2017-2018. Where's he at? I got to pull it up. Tampa Bay Lightning. You guess who it is? Goalie, Andre Vasilevsky. All right. I'm sorry, Vasilevsky. One of the best goalies in the world. And this is from his 2017-2018 season, which was capturing the first 3 years of his career. If you could find a rookie card of this guy, I strongly suggest you hold on to it. Hockey cards are growing more and more every day in value. And it's a pretty interesting phenomenon why they are. Hockey cards, for some odd reason, really invest in the graphic of the card. And some of these cards are set up and designed really nice. And they fetch a pretty good penny. So if you're out there and you think hockey cards, because not a lot of collectors or sellers are really into the hockey cards, but there is some money to be made in the hockey card realm. And there's some cards out there that if you can get a hold of, or cards that you really need to get a hold of. Connor Bedard's rookie card is another one of those cards. $80 right now for his rookie card. And he's only been in the league 1 year. So that's just the start of it. Now, whether or not that card stays at $80 is totally dependent on Connor, but this guy is definitely, his card is rising, and it will continue to rise. When he hangs it up and decides to go into the Hall of Fame, it will really rise. But this is his 17-18 Upper Deck card. Pretty nice card. Right now, you're not gonna be able to become a millionaire off this card. I've seen it as high as $15 and as low as $5. So somewhere in that range of value for a hockey card of a third-year player. Not a bad thing, especially for a surefire lock to the Hall of Fame. One of the best goalies ever to play the game. If you can find a rookie card of his, that's really smart and really sweet. His running mate, Kucherov, I actually have a Kucherov Syracuse Crunch card when he was in the minors. And that thing, there's no market for it. His rookie cards are around $300 a card. But there's no market or no comp for a minor league card before he entered the league. And I'm hanging on to that, as well as a couple other cards that I found through my collection and also my stepson's collection. Now, this is my stepson's card. This came out of his collection. So any movement I make with this card, I have to approve through him, a 14-year-old boy. This life I live. But this is the Vasilevsky card. And this card here physically, and here it is in physical form, is one of my more smart-looking cards. There's I don't think there's any edge issues. I think this card's in very good shape. And there's no centering problems, and there's no surface issues, too. So I'm looking at a 9.5. Now, the cards that I've seen of him are all raw, by the way. I have not seen any graded PSA cards of him. So at a raw card is about a $15 value right now. So that's a pretty good start. If you can get one of these graded, probably at a 9 or 10, that raises the value up to about maybe $60, $70 for a third-year player's hockey card. So not a bad card. It's a smart-looking card. It's a colorful card, and it's one of the ones in my collection, and I'm very proud of it. So there you have it. There's my card review of the night. Andrea Vasilevsky. And there you go. So that's going to take us to the end of the program. I want to remind everybody a couple things. We got a lot of things to remind people about. Don't forget the 2025 IIHF World Junior Championships from Ottawa, Canada, where the stars of the NHL of tomorrow will be on display from December 26th to January 5th. I will be there, and It's a Wrap Sports will be there covering that event, and we're looking forward to that. Going to have a big-time blast, living nothing but hockey. Maybe I'll get out there and make a fool of myself. So can't wait. I'll be up in Ottawa. I can't do that. I'll be in another country. Good God. I don't want to create an incident. So I can't wait for that. Also, Thursday night, the Clear the Ice will return. The Flyers will return. They will battle the Florida Panthers on Thursday. Sal has you on the coverage. Sal also has you on Saturday against the Boston Bruins, and I'm coming at you. Guns a-blazing against those pesky hockey clubbers from Utah as we welcome in the brand newly minted Utah Hockey Club. Hopefully they are the Yetis at this time next year. So we will get that going for you on Sunday night on Clear the Ice. And also on Sunday, don't forget this too, the Birds Flyby, our post-game show will return Sal will have you on that one. Not sure who's going to be his co-host. I don't know if Al will be back next week or not, but he will be here. I know Sal will be here. So make sure you're tuned in right after the Eagle-Panther game and checking out the Birds Fly By, our new post-game show. And tomorrow on this program, The Final Word with MattyB, it's actually the afternoon word or midday word, as I will have Anthony Gargano stopping by for about a 20-minute segment with me at 4:30 tomorrow. We will be on the air kind of going early to accommodate his schedule, which I'm all about that because I'm a person of the people. So the Cuz will be here, and we'll get his views on some things heading into or on the Philadelphia sports landscape. And yes, I promise I will not disappoint. So can't wait for all that tomorrow. Thank you for being part of here tonight. I want to thank everybody for chiming in. Steve, always the man. And we will talk tomorrow. Have yourselves a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on The Final Word.
I'll be coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I just drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I'm so. Everybody know I'm on. You know when the click through to the and it's about to be a so big vibe.